chapter 52 and chapter 53 of Srila Prabhupada dictating. Jayarad Amad Hava Kunjabi Hari Jayarad Amad Hava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadit Hari Jana Vallabha Girivadit Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadit Hari Yasodanan Jana Rasha Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadi Hari Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadi Hari Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shivada Golokananda ki jai. Giri Govardhan ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavakataryo Stotara Satarshi Srimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavakataryo Stotara Satarshi Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namachar Sridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavana Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Yamunamai ki jai. Gangamai ki jai. Shrimati Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're continuing our exciting study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are on Canto 10, Chapter 52, verse 27. And we might be reading two verses. Dwarkakam Samba Betjaya Patiharai Parveshita Apashar Adayam Purusham Asinam Kanchanasane Dwarkakam Sasama Betja Patirahi Parvishtaha Apasharadayam Purusham Asinam Kanchanasane. Devotees, Dwakaram Samsama Becha Patihara Prabhashita Sat Ajam Purusham Apitinam Kanchasasane. Anyone else? Vakakamsa Samabecha Pratihara Pavishita Apasharadayam Purusham Asinam Kanchanasa. Word for word. Dwarka kam at Dwarka. Sai, the Brahmana. Samabecha, arriving. Patihare, by the gatekeepers. Paveshitaha, brought inside. Apashat, he saw. Ajam, the original. Purusham, supreme personality. Asinam, seated. Kanchana, golden. Asane, on a throne. Translation. Upon reaching Dwarka, the Brahmana was brought inside by the gatekeepers and saw the primeval personality of Godhead sitting on a golden throne. Can repeat. Upon reaching Dwarka, the Brahmana was brought inside by the gatekeepers and saw the primeval personality of Godhead sitting on a golden throne. So before reading the commentaries, we'll offer our respects unto our spiritual master, unto Srila Prabhupada, unto the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. Om Gana Timirandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksu Militanyana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatata Shatarine. So there are two short commentaries, one by Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur, one by Jiva Goswami. So I will read those, and then I probably will go on to the next text. But the one point I first wanted to bring out is here we see that the Brahman is reaching Dwarka, and he sees the primeval personality of God. It's sitting on a golden throne. So from this we can understand that here Krishna is being worshipped as a supreme personality of Godhead in Dwarka. His position is known. There is still some sweetness in Dwarka. It's not like Vaikuntha, there's sweetness, there's relationship, but there's also awe and reverence, and there's also understanding that this is the supreme personality of Godhead. Where we know when we were reading in the previous chapters in Vrindavan, when some miracle would happen, they would think, oh, because I was worshiping my Shalagram Shila or Narayan, then these wonderful things have happened. But Krishna is just my boy, it's just my son. So here we are reading about how Rukmini sent this Brahmana to bring her message. And if we go back a few verses, we will really see more into the personality of Rukmini also. Often we think of Rukmini as being, it's explained to the acharyas that Rukmini, who is an expansion of Chandravali, is considered to be like ghee, where Radharani is considered to be like honey. So in our previous verse, Srila Prabhupada, and when I listened on the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada says that Rukmini is an expansion of Radha. So also how do we reconcile that? So we also reconcile that because in the Krishna book, I was listening last night as I was saying to the really sweet recitation. Prabhupada explains that Krishna is the original Purusha, Radharani is the original expansion, and all the other personalities are expansions of Radha, and they all have a particular flavor. So normally we think of Rukmini's flavor as being very respectful, like in some of the plays we'll read by the Goswamis, it's like, oh my Lord, and that she might be upset, but she'll smile at the same time. But here, we don't see Rukmini that way. We see Rukmini as really taking things into her own hands. And that's a very important point also, because as Mother Irma has mentioned before, sometimes people think that women don't have a varna. But this is so obvious, because here Rukmini, she is been raised by a great king. She's been raised in the palace. She's seen what goes on, politics in the palace. And so she's thinking, tomorrow they're going to marry me to Shishupal. It's already been set. Every arrangement has been made. They have it all planned out. So Rukmini was going to be married to Krishna. Everyone but one brother, Rukmi, wanted this to take place. And obviously it has to take place, because who is Rukmini? She is actually Lakshmi. She is the eternal consort of Krishna and Ryan in every particular pastime. So their marriage has to take place. But to add drama and spice, and to show what a hero Krishna is, Rukmini has to be kidnapped, Rakshasa style, which we've spoken about. So Rukmini, being very intelligent, and externally she might be very submissive because she wants to please Krishna, but when it comes to pleasing Krishna, she'll do the needful. So here the needful is that Rukmini has to take quick action. So she's very intelligent, and as we saw, she arranged for this Brahmana to go and to bring the message. So why did she pick a Brahmana to bring the message? Like, why didn't she just send one of her friends? Like we know in, actually in Krishna's pastimes, there are people that go back and forth with messages that are trustworthy. So who could she find that was trustworthy? So she looked for a Brahmin, and someone who was trustworthy, because the qualities of a Brahmin should be simplicity, honesty, truthfulness. Where Krishna Goswami gave those qualities the other day. And also this Brahmana was very favorable to Rukmini. He had affection for Rukmini. So he took his service as very, 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 very important. And he really took it to heart, what his service was. So he was given the service of bringing a message to Krishna from Rukmini. Now, this is another point to take into consideration. Nowadays, we might see boys and girls mixing very easily, and they don't think anything about it. Oh, we're just friends. There's nothing going on. We're just friends. In those days, boys and girls did not mix. That was a Vedic culture. And for a woman from a high, respectable family to write a letter to a man asking him to marry her, she was risking everything. She was completely risking everything. And not only was she risking everything, but she had already made up her mind, this Drita Vrata. If Krishna does not accept me, I will give up my life. I'll give up my life, and I'll wait many lifetimes. We know in the pastimes of the Ramayana how originally Ramana got in trouble because he tried to abduct this one yogini woman, Vedavati was her name, wasn't it? Who was performing austerities to get Narayan as her husband. And he tried to pull her by her hair. She gave up her body saying, I've been violed by you. So this is this determination that they had. I want Krishna. I want Krishna. And that's going to really be the main topic of our discussion now. So Rukmini, she sends this note, and here we see that the Brahmana was brought inside by the gatekeepers, and he was able to pass through many, many doors. So those gatekeepers are there to keep unwanted personalities from coming in, and causing disruption. So it's very high security. But this Brahmana was known to be respectful, and there was respect for the Brahmanas. So the Brahmanas were able to pass through very quickly. And the same way Narada Muni, he's able to go to all kind of places where others are not able to go to. So I'm going to read the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He entered accompanied by the gatekeepers, Pratiharahi. So the gatekeepers understood, he is bringing this important message to Krishna, and they alerted Krishna, and they personally accompanied him. Then commentary by Jiva Goswami. He went straight, Sam Abetra, not going on a crooked path, and arrived at Dwarka. This was good fortune. He went through many gates. Thus he was given permission to enter by many gatekeepers. Pratihari, while seeing the path lined with many persons giving praise to the Lord Pravishitaha, he saw Krishna Purusham, who is a source of all forms of the Lord Adayam, sitting on a gold throne. His dark form appeared most beautiful. So this commentary by Jiva Goswami is very short, but it's also very beautiful. It's very visual. And one can actually just allow their mind's eye to, see how this Brahman is being ushered into Dwarka through the different gates, going to see. And then this Brahmana comes directly in contact with Krishna, who's glowing like gold on this beautiful seat, and who's radiant. Indranila is just radiant. But the point that's very important here, which also applies to our own devotional life, is determination of Rukmini, which we spoke about. She was determined that Krishna was going to be her husband. It didn't matter that her brother had arranged with Shishupal. It didn't matter that the whole society was expecting that wedding. But she also knew that all of her other brothers, that her mother, her father, everybody wanted her to marry Krishna. So she also knew, too, that she was going against her older brother and against these big forces of Shishupal and the different kings. But she also knew that her family wanted her to marry Krishna. So the next point here, which I wanted to mention, he went straight, Sam Abetra, not going on a crooked path, and arrived at Dwarka. So this is an important point. He had a mission to do. Rukmini entrusted this Brahmana. She said, the time is short. We have to act quick now. This is immediately. She came to the conclusion, Prabhupada said, being very intelligent, she realized, I can't just be here and lament. I can't just hear and lament that I'm being married to Shishupal tomorrow and feel sorry for myself and cry. But I have to take action. So in our own life, sometimes there'll be some difficulty will come, and we might want to just, sit down and lament and cry, which is like mode of ignorance, or we can take some action. What action can I take to try to rectify this situation? So Rukmini was willing to put her whole life actually on the, she couldn't ruin her life. She was supposed to marry Shishupal, who was a very wealthy king. He had his own kingdom. She would have been, a queen, respected, would have been a respectable marriage. But she was willing to give all that up. And here we see that this Brahmana, he didn't just go sightseeing on the way, but he took the straightest path possible because he wanted to get there right away. So I remember when I was first coming to Krishna consciousness, it also would talk about, like, sometimes when one would be returning to the spiritual world, they would pass through the different layers, and there's different worlds, and the different worlds can appear very attractive. And I would think about that on the way in my own life. Am I going to be on a crooked path? Will I get distracted? We could get distracted by beauty, by opulence, by wealth, by some particular philosophical deviation? How do we become distracted? Or do we just think we have so much time and we take a crooked path? Just like if we're going to go somewhere and we know that we need to get there immediately, we might look on our GPS and look for the most direct path and the shortest time and stick with it. But sometimes our GPS makes mistakes, which it's done with me, and you end up on a crooked path. And you don't get where you're meant to go right away. So we have to also use our intelligence and always be evaluating and introspecting. Am I staying on the correct path in my devotional life? So in order to stay on the direct path, we have to know what our goal is. And even though we might not be able to reach that goal now, we have to have an idea of what is my goal. That's when we talk about sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. Like, what is my relationship? How do I develop my relationship with Krishna? Is abhideya, what practice am I doing to be able to develop my relationship? What is my sadhana? What is the practice? And then the prayojana that comes. But first we have to have some sambandha. So even in the beginning of stages of devotional service, it's not, our life shouldn't just be like what they say, a smorgasbord. When you go in a restaurant, I'll take a little of this and a little of that. And I like what this sadhu says, but oh no, now he said something I don't like, so I'll go and I'll listen to someone else and maybe they'll say something I like. So we have to have that one-pointedness, one-pointed determination. And at the end of the Krishna book reading for chapter 53, when this whole pastime is, wound up, Srila Prabhupada states that in devotional service, one must have determination. And without determination, one becomes very weak. So we'll read the next verse. Drisva brahmya devastvam avaruha nijasanat upaveshayitam chakre yataratmanam divaksaha. Translation: seeing the Brahmana, Sri Krishna, Lord of the Brahmanas, came down from his throne and seated him. Then the Lord worshipped him just as he himself is worshipped by the demigods. So often when we offer the bhoga, we say, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagaritai Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha. So how dear are the Brahmanas and the cows to Lord Krishna. As a child, Lord Krishna was playing with the cows, had a name for all of them, treating them with love and devotion. He refused to wear shoes if the cows didn't wear shoes. And how dear are the Brahmanas, that this Brahmana comes, and we also know in the story of Sudama Brahmana, and Krishna personally worshiped them. And the commentary, Krishna worshipped the Brahmana just as the Devas worshipped Krishna. Krishna saw the Brahmana from a distance. He worshipped the Brahmana because, though worshipped by others, he was devoted to Brahmanas because of his gentle nature. He worshipped with great devotion, just as the Devatas worshipped Krishna with great devotion. So here we see Krishna. He's just not like sitting on a throne, accepting worship from everyone, but he's worshiping the Brahmanas. And it explains how gentle is Krishna's nature. How gentle, how kind. So Krishna is also known as Bhaktavatsala. So Rukmini knew that Krishna would reciprocate, actually, because Krishna cannot tolerate seeing the suffering of a living entity. And he perfectly times things so there's suspense. I mean, Krishna, he gave up fighting with Jarasandha and appeared to be Ranchur. He appeared to run with Balaram, hiding out of fear. He didn't care if Jarasandha thought he was a coward. He knew that he had some other business to do. So he stopped fighting, jumped off the mountain. Jarasandha thought he had burned to death when they set the mountain to fire. And he got around his real business, which was reciprocating with his devotee, Rukmini. So this is Krishna. He's always wanting to reciprocate accordingly with the devotees. And there's that very, the verse where Krishna says, to those in Bhagavad Gita worship with love and devotion, I give them the understanding how to come to me. So it was Krishna who gave Rukmini the understanding how to plan everything to detail. Come at this particular time. I'm going to be going to this temple. You could come in and capture me. She had a whole plan, and she didn't want there to be too much violence taking place. But in a Rakshasa marriage, there's no way not to have some violence. So I was going to read a little bit from Bhagavad Gita about remembering Krishna. So this is from chapter 8, and it's verse number 8, Bhagavad Gita. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasanana gamina paramam purusham divya yat parunashitam. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So here they're talking about attaining the Supreme when one leaves their body, but it also applies to how Rukmini obtained Krishna to marry her. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as I said, Rukmini, she's playing the role as a human, as is Krishna, but at the same time, she's also aware of Krishna as the Supreme Lord. But at the same time, it's also covered over with Krishna is my husband. Krishna will become my husband. So there's a mix there, a mix of rasas. His mind constantly engaged in remembering me. So she was constantly meditating on Krishna. She heard about Krishna, and when she heard about Krishna, she fell in love with Krishna. There was no question. So that's why Prabhupada is always saying that it's so important for us to hear about Krishna, to hear Krishna Katha. Because we're like in an amnesia state. We've forgotten who we are, we've forgotten where we live, we've forgotten our real home. So Prabhupada arranged for devotees to do paintings, and he called those paintings windows to the spiritual world. Because by seeing those paintings of the spiritual world of Radha and Krishna, we start to become attracted. Krishna the cowherd boys, it's very, very, very attractive. So it reminds us, there is another place, So she had this undeviated from the path. It says, undeviated from the path, Partha is sure to reach me. So she did not deviate from her path. As I said, she decided there's no sense lamenting. I've only got one day. Krishna, come quick. And she wrote this love letter to Krishna. And she knew, it's like, this is so inappropriate. I'm a young single woman, marriageable age. I'm being married to Shishupal. I only want to marry you. Please come and rescue me. So this was the Kshatriya woman. Not only was she willing to write a letter to Krishna, but she was willing to take the reins of the chariot in her own hands. We'll read about that and ride the chariot. So we see that these Kshatriya women were very powerful. That's how Dasarath ended up getting in trouble with Kaikeyi, because she went on to the battlefield and she saved him. And so he had given her a boon. So we see many examples of the strength of these Kshatriya women. So I'm going to read Prabhupada's purport. In this verse, Lord Krishna stresses the importance of remembering him. One's memory of Krishna is revived while chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna. By this practice of chanting and hearing the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, one's ear, tongue, and mind are engaged. This mystic meditation is very easy to practice, and it helps one attain the Supreme Lord. Purusha means enjoyer. Although living entities belong to the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord, they are in material contamination. They think themselves enjoyers, but they are not the Supreme Enjoyer. Here it is clearly stated that the Supreme Enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different manifestations, as plenty expansions as Narayan, Vasudeva, etc. The devotee can constantly think of the object of worship, the Supreme Lord in any of his features, Narayan, Krishna, Ram, etc., by chanting Hare Krishna. This practice will purify him, and at the end of life, due to his constant chanting, he will be transferred to the kingdom of God. Yoga practice is meditation on the supersoul within. Similarly, by chanting Hare Krishna, one fixes his mind always on the Supreme Lord. The mind is fickle, and therefore it is necessary to engage the mind by force to think of Krishna. So this force is not like on my own strength. I'm going to think of Krishna, and you grit your teeth, Krishna, But because bhakti is independent, the holy name, one has to pray. So the force means that even though my mind is screaming, even though my chanting is not very nice, I'm going to sit myself down and try to hear and chant the holy name, associate with devotees. So force in the sense that Prabhupada said seems like poison in the beginning is like nectar at the end, but not force that we think that by our own strength the holy name will come, because it's just not like that. One example often given is that of the caterpillar that thinks of becoming a butterfly and so is transformed into a butterfly in the same life. Similarly, if we constantly think of Krishna, it is certain that at the end of our lives we shall have the same bodily constitution of Krishna. So another important point that Prabhupada always stresses is that we need to think of Krishna with affection. Like Shishupal, he was thinking of Krishna from, that he had a natural enmity towards Krishna. Kamsa had a natural enmity towards Krishna, but it wasn't with affection. So we're meant to think about Krishna with affection. And how do you develop affection? Well, one, when you hear about someone, so in our Krishna consciousness movement and in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it is understood that one accepts a spiritual master, and that spiritual master should be more knowledgeable than us, have affection for us, and really be absorbed in thinking of Krishna, because you could only share what you have. So sometimes one might lead us in our devotional service, like we first meet a devotee, and they're the ones that tell us about devotional service. And then we have our Diksha Guru, who initiates us and brings us into the process of devotional service, giving us the Gopal mantra, the Gayatri mantra, to help us go deeper in our devotional service. So along the way, there has to be this help and the association of devotees that enliven us in devotional service. So by hearing, we develop an attraction, and by being with those that have a taste for Krishna consciousness, our own taste increases. And at the same time, we have to show Krishna that we're trying, Even when there's difficulty, we still try. We try our best. And we see that mood of the Brahmana, that he was one-pointed, determined. He was going to go and bring his message. He was given a message. He was going to bring it. He wasn't going to get distracted on the way. So in our devotional life, we should also be careful not to be distracted in our devotional process. And we see that Rukmini, she was determined, whether it was in this life or the next, I'm going to reach Krishna. And we know in the past time when Mukunda was rejected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he felt that he had been listening to bad association, and he was rejected. So then when he was told He will come to me after millions of births. He was dancing so happily. Oh, I will attain my Lord. So we have to be willing to wait however long it's going to take, but to know that Krishna is very kind, he's very merciful, and he reciprocates accordingly with the devotees. Krishna knows the heart of every living entity, and he's trying to bring us closer to him. And also we can understand how Krishna's pastimes are so attractive. One is wanting to hear some romance or some, novel they want to read, or become absorbed in something happening around them. But who's more heroic than Krishna? And so what is a greater romance? The beautiful Parakiya romance of Radha and Krishna. This heroic, kidnapping of Rukmini. So this is all very, very important. So the position of Rukmini, it's not always, we see how the non-devotees, like if you look these things up sometimes online, and you see what are they saying? They see this as being mythology. They speculate so much about these different positions. Who's Radha, who's Rukmini? And they get it wrong, So that's why we're so fortunate that we have the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the Acharyas to help us to understand who is who, and we have the different devotees that have really spoken a lot on these particular topics. And I don't really have time to read it, but I was just going to mention a little bit. I was noticing yesterday, we know that Chaitanya Charan, he comes here, the spiritual scientist, and he had written a really nice article. It's called Rasa Analysis of Krishna's Teasing of Rukmini. And he goes into the different personalities, how Radharani comes as Satyabhama. It's said that when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, the gopis, they come again as the queens, and they come in different personalities. So Radharani comes as Satyabhama, and she's always very feisty, and she's not afraid to neglect Krishna. Where Chandravali is Rukmini, and she's always concerned that Krishna will leave them. But both of these moods are meant for pleasing Krishna, that Krishna likes variety. So there's a pastime which will come later where Krishna will tease Rukmini that you should have married someone else. But instead of Rukmini taking it as a joke, it's explained she falls over like a banana tree. And that he explains that in the beginning she was very heroic to catch Krishna. But once she had Krishna, she was actually very submissive. And even we'll see, like in the pastimes of Lalita Madhava, like she really didn't want, she was very worried about Krishna with Satyabhama, who had been sent to this new Vrindavan, Navana Vrindavan. But at the same time, she would say what she had to say with a smile, and oh my Lord. So there's the different personalities, and all these personalities are meant to give pleasure. So this whole understanding of rasas is something that's very tasteful, and we start reading about it in the Nectar of Devotion, and then Ujjvala Nilamani, and we can see that this Krishna consciousness is a beautiful science. So I want to end class today, and the 2 points that I chose to speak about was, one, the determination of Rukmini, how she was determined, and two, how the Brahmana didn't take a crooked path, how he went direct, so that in our own life we should have determination to reach the goal of Krishna, and we should take a direct path, not like, let's say, dilly-dally along the way, not waste time. And also the importance of patience, that patience is required. And also how kind and beautiful Krishna is, and to understand that Krishna reciprocates with his devotees accordingly. And Srila Prabhupada has given us this chanting of the holy name to help us to come closer to Krishna. So thank you all very much for coming and hearing. And we have run out of time. It's time to greet Krishna. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Driya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham
Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Sangmeniti Namane Namaste, Saraswati Deve, Gurvani Prachane, Nirvisesha, Sunyavare, Pasachagade Saturday. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare, Jai. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hey Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Goloka, Goloka, Radha. Jaya Radha, Goloka, Goloka, Radha. Jaya Radha. Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jaya Om Vishnu.
Chaitodarpanamarjanam Bhavamahadavami Tapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratinam Pranamrita Swadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudani Sarva Shaktis Tatratika Saranena Kala Etad Drishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Gavidam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitamam Visamevam Buddha Kribayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galashu Daraya Varanam Gadgadarudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Takshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam. Are those your lilies? Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata Bhavidata Pato Mat Prananatastu Saivanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all living. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, void of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In this ascetic mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditional.